lovely humans, and welcome back to my channel. If you are watching this on Wedding Chicks or over on Facebook, thank you so much for stopping by. Today we are going to be doing an actual realistic wedding budget breakdown. I picked $30,000 because that tends to be where most of the couples that I work with fall within. But that's not to say that if you are working with a $20,000 budget or a $40,000 budget that you can't base some of your numbers off of the numbers that I'm about to give you. Now let me make a disclaimer. You may pay a lot more for one specific line item than I've allotted, or way less for another line item than I've allotted. Know that you absolutely have freedom to do that, but when you're trying to stick to a budget, these numbers are more like guidelines. So without further ado, let's break it down. The biggest line item for your wedding day will most likely, without a doubt, be your venue. I've had plenty of success with using the number 5,000. It does mean that you have to look a little bit harder, and it does mean that sometimes you have to get a little bit more creative, but there are plenty of options out there. It puts you in a better position to pay a little bit more towards some of the other things that you're going to need for your wedding day as well. The next biggest cost on your list is going to be food. For this particular line item, I have limited that to appetizers and dinner, and I would say you should allot about $3,000 for food. So for 100 people, that would be $30 a person. For 150 people, that would be $20 a person. You get where I'm going with this. For dessert, I like dessert. Dessert is fun. This could be either a dessert table or a several tiered cake, but I would allot $1,200 towards desserts. Good old coordination. It wouldn't be my channel if I didn't pitch you some coordination numbers. I think it is absolutely necessary for you to have at least a day of coordinator there for your event. And I would dedicate about $2,000 to this line item in your budget. That could be more long-term, depending on the coordinator that you select, or it could be just month of services. It just depends on who you book. Drinks, alcoholic and non-alcoholic. I would say you should devote about $2,000 towards that. Stick to beer, wine, and then a couple of non-alcoholic options like water, iced tea, and lemonade. Go for disposable cups as well because they tend to keep costs down. Rentals. This is absolutely no frills rental. $1,500. Tables, chairs, linens. Hopefully you can squeeze in some china and some flatware in that as well. And if not, I would go disposable for those. Photography and videography. I put both of these at $2,500 each. Photography may be extremely important to you, and you may want to devote way more money to that than I've just said. Or you may not even include videography in your wedding budget. Again, move these numbers around a little bit if you need to, but put $2,500 in both of those categories. Wedding flowers. This includes all the personals, so bouquets, boutonnieres, corsages, flower crowns, any of the centerpieces, and any sort of arch or arbor or other miscellaneous displays that you want to have included. $2,500 is kind of on the lower end of things, but it's a good number to work with. It might mean you have to make a couple of sacrifices when it comes to the number of arrangements that you have, but $2,500 is a pretty good place to start. Wedding day attire. This includes dress, shoes, underwear, suit, shoes for the groom, any sort of hair accessories, the whole kit and caboodle. $2,000 for both of you combined. I would devote about $1,500 of that to the bride and about $500 of that to the groom. That's not a whole lot to work with, but there are tons of dress options that fall within that. Keep in mind that you may need to get some tailoring done for either one of you, so that should be included in that budget too. DJ, the life of the party. I freaking love DJs. They make everything so much better. You should allot about $1,500. That should include the ceremony, the cocktail hour, and the reception. Stationery, so this includes invitations, save the dates, menus, programs, escort cards, etc., etc., etc. I would devote about $1,000 of your wedding budget towards that. And remember that that also includes envelopes and stamps if you are sending anything through the mail. Hair and makeup, and this is just for bride only, should run about $300. $150 for your face, $150 for your hair. Side note, this may not include a trial, so that could be extra. And sometimes a hair and makeup artist will not come out for a wedding day if they're only doing it for one person. So if you come across that, know that that's really, really normal, and rope in some bridesmaids and maybe your mom and the mother of the groom to get their hair and makeup done as well to make it a little bit more worth that artist's while. Officiant. If you're hiring a professional officiant, $500 is the number that you're going to want to be looking at. I know a lot of brides use a family member or a friend to do this instead. Favors, if you're going to do them, I would say give that about $500. Talked about this before, so I do think that you could skip this one for sure, because a lot of times people forget to take them, but if you are going to do them, $500 it is. And last but most certainly not least, you have to have a category for this. This can make or break a budget sometimes. You need to have a miscellaneous category. This covers anything that pops up out of nowhere that you kind of didn't plan for. Why? Because there's always something that pops up out of nowhere that you did not plan for. For this category, I would say $1,500 is safe. Again, guidelines, not rules. This could include a cake cutting fee that you weren't anticipating, or having to hire a service staff because you don't have anybody to bust the tables, or I don't know, the list goes on. There's a lot of stuff that could kind of just like pop up out of nowhere. So if you were jotting those down or following along with me, that comes out to $29,500. So if you stick to those numbers, you could come in under budget. You can find some honestly really, really wonderful vendors within those price ranges. You can do it. And it'll feel so good to not go over budget. Who doesn't like staying within budget? A couple things that I did not include in that list would be transportation, hotel stay, gifts for your attendance, photo booth, and rings. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other things that some people consider to be part of their wedding budget, but I didn't add them here. The reason that I did that is because, one, if you're working with a $30,000 budget, a photo booth is a little bit more of an add-in, or a little bit more of a luxury. You may be able to find some ways to squeeze that in, but I would put that on the back burner to make sure you devote the money where you need it. Transportation and hotel stay, a lot of people are Ubering or driving their own vehicles or being driven by family members or friends. And a lot of couples are forgoing a hotel stay the night of their wedding because they want to devote more of that money towards a honeymoon or the actual event itself. And rings. It is really difficult to come up with a number for rings. I would consider those outside of your wedding budget. So that's all we have for today, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for a little bit. If this was helpful for you, I need more coffee. If this was helpful for if this was helpful for you, scoot on down there, hit subscribe for more tips and tricks for the modern day bride. As always, a huge shout out to my gal pals over at Wedding Chicks for hosting this video. I love you guys so much. Until next week. Maybe no more coffee.